Welcome, welcome everyone to Project 180. This is the web experience, the web show where we talk about how to turn your projects around. Today, Minaz Tabassum, welcome, is our
Thank
esteemed
you.
guest. Minaz, you have a lot of different experiences. I guess I could start there. I mean, we were talking before. Um, and I'm just letting somebody in. Here we go, clicking the button. You've had a lot of experience. You've worked with the federal government in Canada, but you've also started your own nonprofits. Can you just give me a nice little overview of you? Because it makes no sense for me to do it. I'd rather hear it from your own mouth.
Of course. Thank you so much, Kevin, for inviting me here. Hi, everyone. I'm Mehnaz. I like to introduce myself, like the word that I've been using a lot. I don't know if you are connected with me on LinkedIn, but you'll see um, I call myself a multi-potentialite. So essentially, it's someone who have a lot of interest and kind of want to do a little bit of everything. So I've been like that for the longest time, and I have a very diverse career portfolio. So just until a month ago, I was a senior IT project manager with the federal government in Treasury Board. So I was overseeing a lot of the big government of Canada-wide IT projects. Aside from that, I'm a founder and executive director of nonprofit, which is now a registered charity in Canada, overseeing a team of 56 amazing team members. Aside from that, I'm a founder and run a property rental management company and an investment company. And just recently, I started two foundations. So one of which is I started a women's network on Women's Day, and then I started like an AI consulting firm because I have had so much experience in the IT world. I'm just so passionate about technology. And for my nonprofit, we use technology a lot for social good. So me and my partner, we thought, why not just use this expertise and start helping charities and nonprofit and small businesses, because we feel that there's still a gap in that sector where not too many charities, nonprofit, and small businesses are thinking about adopting AI. So that's a little bit about me. Whenever I'm free from all of my roles, um, I love to travel. So I try to do at least like more than 5 countries a year. So I travel a lot. I'm always on the go. Um, and my partner is the same way. So I got lucky that my husband, who is also my business partner in all of these ventures, and even though it sounds like I do a lot, but I actually don't work more than like 8 hours or 10 hours a day, give or take. So it's not that I'm working a lot, but I believe a lot in smart work and using technology and processes and whatnot. But I'm sure we'll talk about that.
Exactly, and we will. And thank you for the overview. And I really I appreciate amongst all the things you do, and I know you have a great amount of expertise on many things. But that last statement of like, you might think I work, 24 hours a day, that you actually set yourself up efficiently to work on all these different things within what we'd consider, a normal work day, which I think is really
Yes.
impressive too, because that also demonstrates not only your business acumen and your passion for what you're doing, but also that EI, emotional intelligence level, that
Yes.
how to not overdo it and take care of yourself too, which I find fascinating, because
Absolutely.
I know so many people start these things and you just go. You want to go 24 hours a day, and your
Yeah, I
energy
know.
level is going to do this, right? So we'll get into the AI stuff, but if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you a bit about that first. Like, how do you manage to balance all that and just your regular daily life of shopping and traveling and doing things you normally just need to do?
So I'm really lucky because some skill set you are born with and some skill set you have to develop. So one of the skill set that I feel like I was probably either learned it when I was a kid or I was born with it is I somehow wherever I go, I gather a lot of people. Like I instantly build community. Like that's something
Hmm.
that I don't have to plan or something. That's something I can do very instantly. um, so as a kid, I had a huge community of friends, my cousins, my brothers. Like I have a really close relationship with my siblings, to the point that anytime I move a place, like I moved from Bangladesh to Canada, they left everything, moved with me. I moved within Canada, they left their job and moved with me. So I somehow have that strong support system around me,
Yeah.
and not just family but even friends. And I think one of the roles I missed talking about was I do a lot of like career consulting, career coaching,
Mhm.
and through that I find a lot of talent. So I am able to this. I feel like people who actually book those sessions with me are people who are really like, they take their career and their, self professional development in their own hand, and they're like, okay, what's the next step? So I feel like I interact with a lot of people who are really passionate about, change, about community, about essentially doing good in the world. And I just like recruit them all the time. Like, so that's why, even though it sounds like I do a lot of things, but it's not me alone doing a lot of things. I just have, like I said, in my charity, um, using AI, obviously, that we kind of get rid of the manual stuff, but it's really that 56 people that we have, that's kind of keeping the programs running.
Mhm.
Our work essentially was to find those people, put them together, and just create a good environment so they stay motivated and work. Because obviously, as a charity and a non-profit, we aren't able to, pay them like the private industry. So a
Right.
lot of the time when people work with us is due to like learning and motivation. So I spend most of my day just doing that. Like, how do I keep my team motivated? Same with all aspect of my other businesses as well. For property management and others, I have like strong teams. For my property management, you'd be surprised. Like, I actually don't even have a property manager. It's my tenants who are helping me. I give them a rent break and stuff, but it's like they wanna eventually learn to be a landlord. So they're like, we are eager, we want to help out. So I don't know if it's luck or if it's, but I always find these people who are really amazing and passionate about learning. And somehow I have been very fortunate to build a team. Even for my consultancy, Kevin, I was telling you, I just launched a month ago, and we
Mhm.
already built a team of 6 passionate people. And I was like, I'm surprised. I just made this one post, and within like hours I already got like 30 people. So I feel like that's how I've been able to manage.
Well, you talk about, some things coming naturally and some things obviously you have to learn. But it seems you obviously have this natural ability to find like-minded people,
Mm-hmm.
and always it's one thing. The easy part is finding them, and then it's focusing them and actually having that, the project management, the leadership element,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's the stuff that can be difficult sometimes, but you seem to have
That
navigated
we
and
have to
learned all
learn.
that too.
That I had to learn, because initially in my earlier years when I was starting out in the project management, and also passionate about so many things, but I felt like I had too much on my plates, and I was juggling so much and I was failing to keep up.
Mhm.
That's when I realized that, and this was even before I started studying for my PMP, or I was even aware. Like, I'm talking about my first, second year of university, for my
Mhm.
bachelor's degree. um, I wanted to do so much, but I was really bad at time management because I wasn't documenting anything. I wasn't being organized. I was kind of taking things as they came. And that's when I realized, like, okay, you know what? I need to really start project managing my own life. I need
Mhm.
to start prioritizing, documenting things, make a plan. I feel like that was a turning point in my life when I really started not only learning about project management, but implementing it in my own day to day.
Yeah.
So right now, if we talk about tools, so I personally, for me, like, I use Microsoft Loop. And in my Microsoft Loop, every, like, I created a template for me. Basically, I have like all of my roles: high priority, medium priority, low priority, and just 3 to 4 tasks in all of the roles in each category. And
Mhm.
my goal every week is, and I also time estimate them, like how much time I'll it
Yep.
will take. And then I just basically, my goal is to get through my high priorities. If I get through my high priorities, I'm happy. If I get to my medium, like I'm okay, then I'm like making really happy. But most of the time I don't touch the lows, but it's still there so that I can move it. But those
Yeah.
are the things I've been doing for like over 10 years right now, to the point. And then I also do like the lessons learned, right? So I do journaling a lot. So every Sundays when I plan my week, and then every Saturday or Friday, I'll just kind of reflect on what happened. Like, did I kind of overwhelm myself with too much task and everything? So I feel like those small habits that I started building early on in my university life is what helped me even to this day.
Yeah.
But it
Well,
wasn't easy to build them.
no, and it takes a lot of effort to build those habits and to build up all those kind of systems that you can kind of help with
Mhm,
your work tasks, life tasks, etc. So it's
mhm.
great, and it's rare to see someone so disciplined in it. So that's really cool to see as well. But we're here to talk about AI, Minaz. I'd like to talk to you a bit
Mm.
about that. And um, I'm wondering, I mean, this is a really softball question for you. But in terms of, your experience and what you're working on now, like what does AI really mean to you, and what's the potential of it? And I mean, specifically not for profit, but if you want to go a bit wider, that's fine too. I'm just curious so we can kind of level set and then start digging around.
So AI for me means a lot of positive, but it also means a lot of negative for me. So I'm kind of in between with AI right now. So I've
Hmm.
been like studying a lot, reading up on it a lot. Like I've been kind of following the hype of AI even before there was a hype. Like I was one of the early adopters of ChatGPT, and I've been like just trying to keep up because things are moving so fast. Um, for my own selfish personal reasons, I feel like AI is amazing because as someone who considers herself a multi-potentialite and I have so much interest and things I want to do in life, it was never possible before the amount of role I can take on, that I can do it with AI now. Like it has
Hmm.
made my life so much easier. So for that reason, like I'm all for AI. But in general sense, what really scares me is there's a lot of negative things you can do with AI, right? There's a lot of ethical biases. There's a lot of privacy concerns. There could be a lot of damage that can be done
Hmm.
with AI. So that's the part where I'm always a little bit about like cautious about like, and I feel like at the end of the day, it's going to happen regardless. But what will balance the positive and the negative is to educate people. So that's
Right.
what I'm trying to do, just like keep educating myself, right? I
Hmm.
did a session yesterday, actually. It was called artificial demystifying artificial intelligence, learn and not fear. And that's something that I'm trying to do myself as well, that constantly learning so that I can kind of conquer my fear. Because if you know about something, it's less scary. Because similar to as project management, if you know the risk, you know how to mitigate the risk.
Exactly. It all feeds back to the PMBOK. It all goes
Yeah.
back to
The Pimbog is amazing. Like I feel like that's a guide to life, like if you follow things.
we
Yeah.
have that in common. It drives my wife crazy when I try to plan
Yeah.
things. But it's true. I think of it the same way. Um, so I appreciate what you're saying about, obviously there's pros and there's cons and there's risks and there's lots of really
Mhm.
good things that can come of it. I know for me personally, my use of AI, like I use GPT, almost really primarily for brainstorming. Like I work on my
Mhm.
own, like I'm in here, my home office space. I have a
Mhm.
regular day job. I do some consulting and stuff like that. But sometimes when you're on your own, you just can't quite. You need somebody
Mhm.
to punch back ideas with or to knock something around with. And in lieu of having another person around, I use AI for that. And it's like, what do you
Mhm.
think about this? And it'll give me a few ideas. I'm like, no, 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 that's not it. And we kind of go back and forth. So I find that very helpful just in terms of helping me organize my thoughts on things because I'll go
Mhm.
really random. So I find that to be a really helpful use case, whether it's for work or just, something in life that I need to, tackle or figure out. So I love that. But I also
Mm-hmm.
appreciate the negatives, and because it is still very new and there's not a lot of
Mm-hmm.
legislation around it, there's not a lot of deep
Mm-hmm.
understanding of what it is. It scares a lot of people, as you said too. Um, in the nonprofit space, and my own experience with non-for-profits, I've worked with some small ones and some big national nonprofit organizations. Change is not always an easy thing, first of all, but introducing, oh, hey everybody, let's do AI now. That just scares people and they run for the hills. So, in my experience, so what's your experience in just trying to introduce this concept of AI and what kind of benefits that it might have for a not-for-profit like NL Eats, for example, or any other organization? What kind of benefits do you see in the nonprofit space for this technology?
Personally, I feel like there's a lot of benefits, especially if you're a smaller nonprofit organization or a charity organization. Um, because to be honest, smaller charities and nonprofits, they don't get a lot of funding, right? There's always that disparity between, like, okay, either you are a huge organization, like that gets a lot of funding, or you're a smaller organization and it takes years to get to that large organization. So the pathway in the nonprofit charity world is already tough as it is, right? Like, we all know about funding constraint, we all know about resource challenges, and when you're an employee of the nonprofit organization or you're a volunteer, you're really focused to do whatsoever the social cause is, right? Like for us, like the food bank, or um, like focusing on educating people about food insecurity and those kind of things. Before AI, it was very difficult to get resources to do like marketing, to do social media, to do donor management. You
Mhm.
need like really experienced staff, but if you don't have funding, you cannot afford them. And it was really hard to do other innovation type of like research project, or put together like a data team, or look into more of the forward thinking stuff, because
Yeah.
all of your resources would be tied into just keeping things operational,
Yep.
right? And that's the benefit that personally we are seeing at NL Eats, that with AI, not only we are attracting a lot of people who wants to kind of play with AI, so it has kind of been a really good hook to get people working and
Mhm.
experimenting with us. But we have been able to do like tap into a lot of cool projects, and we have like automated some of our tedious stuff, right? Like that we weren't focused on before, like marketing.
Mhm.
Marketing is so essential for any organization, but for charities and nonprofit, marketing is not the top priority, right? Because your priority is to serve people, serve the
Yeah.
community. So marketing falls last. But without marketing, how are people even going to know about you, right? How are you going to find donors, or how are you going to find volunteers? So that always comes last. So through AI, we have automated our marketing process, that now it's easier.
Mhm.
Same with donor outreach. Because I have, like, for example, if we sent a volunteer or employee to reach out to an organization, their leadership, 90% of a chance is that they're not going to hear back.
Mhm.
It has to be someone at the executive director level, right? So for example, that falls into my role to do the stakeholder management and outreach. But because I have so many other roles, outreach is a whole day of work anyway, right? Because you have to
Yeah.
find who you want to reach out to, what projects you need to create the communication, then do all of this emails and LinkedIn and whatnot. But with AI and automation, that whole process right now, like I can do 400, 500 emails and even LinkedIn DMs.
Mhm.
um, it takes me like 2 3 hours, and then I'm done. Like all I do is, like, whenever someone sets a meeting, I'm meeting with their executive. So all of the small things, it really benefits a lot to smaller organization. Like that's how we essentially grow.
Mhm. Well, yeah, you're right. It speaks to scaling. Well, it speaks
Exactly.
just speaks to resource management. You can be more
Resource
efficient with the
management.
team you have,
Mhm.
but the potential of scale, this is in terms of outreach, and I think social media. If you've got it, you know, if AI is helping in terms of writing the content and you're tweaking and whatever it is you're doing, but like
Exactly.
AI is doing a lot of the heavy lifting, frees you up or your team up to do the lighter stuff or the more important stuff.
More important stuff, yeah. And we always have, like, we really believe in human, in the loop concept. So for all of the function, we only automate the part where we feel like it won't have an impact on the quality, right? So even if we're
Mhm.
having using ChatGPT to generate the initial draft, we have a human review before it actually goes into buffer,
Yeah.
before we schedule it, right? So all of the important stuff, like we have people who are working on the creative visioning on, okay, how do we use creative storytelling and etc. But we are not really using AI to do those stuff, right? Same with
Mm.
like the outreach. Whenever someone replies, I'm the one who's replying back and talking with them, right? That part AI is still not taking over. It's that the tedious, the administrative burden is essentially what we are automating, and we don't realize, but that takes a lot of time.
Yeah. Oh, it does, and it's not. And I mean, for charities, for any small organization, that is the tedious stuff that you have to do.
Hmm.
But in a
Yeah.
small organization, generally too, you're going to have people who come in and they're really passionate about the mission, whatever that mission is, whether it's food insecurity or whether you're developing a really cool technology you want to get out there,
Hmm.
and they don't want to be assigned to do necessarily. They want to be up there. They want to be, you know, great and all this great stuff. The more tedious stuff, it's nice to be able to cut off the list.
Hmm. And also talent recruitment as well, as I was mentioning,
Hmm.
like we are getting a lot of amazing folks wanting to work with us because of the innovative and experimentation type of environment that we have built. So I feel like that's like AI and technology, because we are one of the very few charities, at least based on my experience of talking to other charities and nonprofits, we are very big on technology and experimentation. I see we have one of the analyst team members here as well who can vouch for
Oh,
it. But but essentially, we, because we have taken care of some of the operational stuff, we are always looking forward to, it's like, okay, what is some of the more research and innovation project that we can do, right? Initially we started with food insecurity, but because of technology, we quickly moved into agriculture and innovation in that side of things, like more of the preventative measure as opposed to the reactive measure. And we wouldn't be able to do it if our resources were tied into just maintaining the status quo, maintaining the operations.
right. So a typical engagement for you, somebody coming in say, "Hey, I need some help on figuring this out." What would you say if somebody was just not sure what to do with this AI thing? Like, what's a good place to kind of start in terms of the I'm running a charity or I'm running a small company of some kind. What's a good hook to get somebody convinced that yes, this is going to be a good idea?
So we have actually built an assessment that we go through with our clients on a larger scale. But if I have to give like a one short answer, essentially ask yourself, what is your biggest problem right
Hmm.
now, right? Because at the end of the day, forget about AI, forget about technology. You are solving a process problem at the end of the day. Like that's what it is, right? If
Yeah.
something is taking you like 2 hours to do, then you can use AI or other tools or technology to bring it down to so and so hours less. But if you
Hmm.
don't know that what is it that you are trying to do, or what is the problem that you are trying to solve, then you cannot really, like, then it's just a lot of like noise, AI noise, so many tools,
Yeah.
so many. So always start with like that process, identify what is the one process that you want to start, that's causing you a lot of headache in your day. It's too long, it's important but it's too long. Then start mapping that process, and based on that you can maybe draw it, put it in ChatGPT, and ask chat, like interact with ChatGPT to generate you some tools and guidance. That's a simple answer, but that's a great way to start kind of
Yeah.
learning about. As an example, actually, like I started my podcast, Menas Talks AI. I think I was telling you, Kevin, about it. Like I was
Yeah.
contemplating on it for over a year and a half. And I didn't get started just because I had so much things on my dates. Like it was like I don't have a time for another one.
Yeah.
But then I was like, okay, you know what? Let me map out my process and see how much it's going to take me if I did start this podcast. And once I did, I started researching, okay, what tools and technologies that exist out there that I can use that could bring this process by
Mhm.
at least 50%, if not even less. And this when I started finding those tools and started, experimenting. So I feel like it's all about understanding and knowing what is it that you want, like your own unique problem or your own unique use case, and then start researching on the tools that exist.
I really appreciate your answer to that because, again, the PMBOK reference, it goes back to integration management, right? It's like figuring
Yes,
out the goal, the purpose. Maybe you don't need
exactly.
AI, right? Like AI is just the
Nope.
buzzword. It could be a spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is you might need to help you work through. So, but identifying it as the current challenge of the organization, and then
Mm-hmm.
maybe an AI GPT tool comes into it. Maybe it's something else, but really you're talking about something that's more holistic and something that's a bit,
Exactly.
a bit more integrated into the entire organization. Not necessarily, well, AI, we got to do something with AI. You don't have to. Like no one's pressuring you to
and
use AI.
everyone have like different challenges, right? Sometimes we are so hooked into what others are doing, we forget to start analyzing, okay, what is it that causing us trouble as an organization, right? Because we started with marketing because that was our biggest challenge at the time being. But a lot of the organization we spoke with, their biggest challenge was HR, like recruitment.
Mhm.
For some it was finance. So it's really depends on where you have skill set, where you can just get by, because you can't really tackle everything all at once. Just like start with one function or one process and start building up.
Yeah. Um, I mean, it's all about trying and failing, and then building
Exactly.
success, and trying things out, right? Now, I just want to pause for a second. I know there's a handful of other people here on the call. If anybody has a comment, question, please jump in. You can either unmute, click the raise hand button if you like, or you can even type something into the chat if you'd like. But I wanted to make sure that anyone else has the opportunity. Just because she and I are talking doesn't mean we're the only ones who have to. So please, if you want to jump in, go ahead anytime. Um, what about? I mean, we've talked about ChatGPT. I heard about another one that I'd never heard of this morning called Claude. There's a million different
Mm-hmm.
ones out there. Um, is there a tool that's kind of like a great entry point in your view, from your experience? Like I've worked with GPT, but maybe there's something else that would just to kind of get acquainted with how this thing works, so you can maybe get more comfortable with it. Is there something that you might recommend as a starting point?
um ChatGPT is a great starting point, but everyone, like I said, everyone uses um, it for different reason. Like I know if you ask the same question to my husband, he'll probably say Claude, right? Right now,
Okay.
Claude is on his like top list. So it's like it's all, but he does a lot of like research and like a lot of those technical. Then he uses Perplexity too. That's another tool. um, I use Notebook LM. So there's like all these different tools out there that's for specific use cases. If
Mhm.
you're just using it for generic information, or even in ChatGPT right now, you can build agents.
Mhm.
I feel like that's enough. But if you really want to hone in and start, then I think you need to do a little bit of your research, like I said, on your process, what you are trying to automate. And then using ChatGPT, it will tell you what are some of the best tools. And then you try it basically and see what works for you.
Yeah. What about the Like, I just, by way of example, not nonprofit related, but an example, my son was working on his a math assignment, take home math exam basically last week. And so I typed in the questions in ChatGPT because I could check for him, with him what the answers were. And sometimes it came back right, and sometimes it came back wrong. So you have to ask a few times and really try to make sure that, because I'm not just going to ask him to correct his homework based on something that GPT says, because it might not be right. So there are risks involved with using these kind of technologies, and there's there's the risk that it might be spitting out information that is incorrect, biased, or just otherwise bad. And just ethically, that there's can be assumptions built into the language models too that would make you question results. How do you manage the ethical conundrums when you're dealing with this kind of tool as well?
I think that is, like, I am hearing a lot of similar examples, right? But I feel like before I answer that, like, if we talk about two type of kind of AI, right? There's predictive AI, which essentially uses past pattern to forecast specific outcome. And then there's generative AI like ChatGPT that crafts new content based on learned data. But it's coming from like a knowledge based that's already been built, right? And it's dealing with a lot of different type of data points. So right off the bat, anytime I put anything, any of the AI tool, I just assume that it's not going to give me the best result, because it will give you the best result if you are very specific.
Right.
And there's a thing that's called prompt engineering. I don't know if you heard the term, Kevin.
Yep.
And it's something that where you actually have to learn on how to prompt these tools to get the most effective outcome. And I have been experimenting with it a lot, and watching videos and learning about it. Even now, I feel like there are times when I do the prompt, I won't still get the result. So I feel like this is where we need to start educating people that do not rely on the answers that the ChatGPT or any of the generative tools are giving you, because the purpose of the tool is not to do your homework for you, or not to write essays for you, or not to give you the answers. It's something that you use to expedite what you are doing, right? But you have to be the one who has to validate. That's where the human in the loop comes in. Like for me, I post so many times a day on LinkedIn. The way I write my post is I write my jot thoughts, my everything, put it into ChatGPT, and then I ask it, can you organize it into, in my own voice and tone for LinkedIn, and I give it context. If you give it so much guidance and context, I get really great results, right? Versus if I just write in ChatGPT that, hey, I'm trying to write a LinkedIn post about this topic, can you write me something? Then what it's doing, it's essentially taking from the data that exists in its database, maybe someone's somewhere, and then you get like this robotic stuff which you can read, and you are like, okay. So it's almost like if you have a personal assistant, like if you have someone working within your organization, you need to train it, you need to feed it all the information you want. So it's like if you treat ChatGPT or AI tools like that, you're going to get the most effective information. Where the ethical consideration comes into place, and again, this is why I always go to like understand your process, understand your use case, is that we will never use ChatGPT to collect data from our food bank recipients, right? So we understand data privacy. So I feel like that's an education that needs to happen across the board. Because if you understand data privacy, if you understand what kind of data you need to put into this generative tool, what kind of data you're extracting from this generative tool, what are some of the biases that can come from different use cases, I feel like that's when you can make a more balanced decision making into like what tool should I use, where I use it. But I feel like there's no like right or wrong answer. It's all based on what specific problem or use case that you're trying to solve.
Excellent. Rowena put a question in the chat. So I like when you mentioned to do business process assessment reengineering first before thinking of any AI tools, as we were discussing, the big why before you make any decisions about tools. But let's say that AI is required. How would you suggest to get stakeholder or sponsor buy-in? That's very project management phrasing, by the way, Rowena. So extra points for that.
Yes, amazing question. Thank you so much, Roina. So I'm going to share my website of my consultancy firm so you can take a look. But essentially what we did is we built this 6-phase approach to get stakeholder buy-in. Basically, there are clients, right? We are trying to get them hooked on the project and also help them in the process as well. So how it started, we give them this free assessment tool where essentially it asks them some question, and the questions are built in a way that's already making them think like, okay, I really need to get started to use these tools because it will save me money, or it will help me find more employees faster with resource management. So the question itself is designed in a way that's already guiding their thought process a little bit, right? Like it's at least influencing or making them think. And then after the assessment, we have this meeting with them where we go over the results. And like I said, we break it into function basis. So what we do is, let's say if someone comes, like if throughout the assessment, we get a result that, someone has a huge need in maybe 3 domains, but the top domain where they need a lot of AI tools or digitization is maybe HR, right? Maybe they answered that, oh, they're having a lot of issues with resource management. They don't have any training materials for their processes. They have high turnover. No one is staying around. They don't have a HR person to do recruiting, whatnot. So once all of those problem statements comes into place, we put it in a nice report, and we do those current state and future state mapping for them. That kind of makes them visualize that, okay, this is the whole tedious like current state that's not giving me much value using the tools or the system that I have in place. But in the future state, even though my initial investment is a little bit higher to get this system in place, and it's a little bit of change management to get acquainted to this new ways of working, but ultimately in the long term, I'm saving money, I'm saving resources, I'm effectively utilizing the resources and tools I have at my disposal. And I'm also becoming one of the tech savvy and AI driven company or organization. So we all probably learned this in project management, that anytime you want to get stakeholder buy-in, you need to demonstrate what's the value that they're getting, right?
100%.
That's key to everything. Like whether you're getting project teams buy-in into something, sponsors buy into something, clients or anyone, you have to demonstrate what's their value, like what value are you providing them. So that's how we kind of have designed the whole process.
That's excellent, and I can't imagine a better answer. Because I think the whole notion of, back to Rowena's question about basically managing stakeholders and the sponsor, whomever has an opinion or some kind of control over this project that you might be working on, or the organization, is communicating well with them, understanding what it is they really want to get out of this, and then ultimately you're providing options, saying, well, I think we should do this way, and this will get us to where you want to go. If we choose this path, it's going to cost $100,000. If we go this path, it's going to cost us $250. It's going to take us 6 months here and 12 months here, but we'll still get to the same. I mean, it's obvious what the answer is going to be. necessarily. But if you lay it out in terms of in just having that good relationship and that good rapport and that good communication with them, it makes it much
Mm-hmm.
easier. So it because you're not going in to just sell a technology. You're not going to say, well, GPT can solve all this for us in the next 20 minutes. You're going in to say, look, if we integrate this kind of process into what we're doing, we'll see benefits down the road. And that should be enough
Mm-hmm.
to trigger a little, check mark on their minds, right? To move forward with something.
No. And we also make them part of the process to getting to that outcome that we share,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's key in terms of building relationship with the client or the stakeholder, because they're seeing the steps we are taking in real time to get to that outcome. So then automatically they have that trust, right? That we are not just giving them some wishy-washy like answer into like, okay, this is, this, you take this, or we are not trying to sell them something, but they know the amount of work and thought process and the information that went into in coming to that outcome, that if you take
Yeah.
option A, you're going to get this benefit, option B, this benefit. So having them part of the process throughout is
Yeah.
key in getting their buy-in.
Absolutely. Agreed. And thanks, Rowena, for the question. If you have others, please feel free to
Thank
ask.
you.
Um, I think I wanted to ask one more topic, and we'll see how far this goes. But
Yes.
in terms of policies, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is, I mean, AI is everywhere, and it's the buzzword, and everybody's trying to figure this out. But that really means you need to have a policy in your organization as to what's okay to do with it and what's not,
Mm-hmm.
and where your data can reside and where it cannot reside. You're not going to put all your, company's private information into GPT. Like, how have you managed this with your own and with NL Eats maybe in particular, but in terms of just developing policies and an understanding, a common understanding of how the team can and should use it?
So again, that's all comes into classifying the types of data that you have in an organization, right? And that's where I always tell all of the organization that always start before you even think about AI, start with building your data strategy, because your data strategy is kind of the guiding tool or the guiding light into what and what not you can do with AI,
Mm.
right? So essentially, how a data strategy in a simple version looks is what type of data does your organization use, and what are some of the existing sources, how is it flowing through the organization, who have access to what, and how the information management process kind of works, right? Where is it being stored and whatnot? Because if you start answering those questions and drawing it up in a document, it will tell you what are some of the classified and unclassified data. Like, for example, marketing. When we are doing marketing stuff, it doesn't matter what the volunteers or employees are putting in the chat GPT, because most of the data that we use for marketing are public data anyway,
Right.
right? So they're free to use it in generic tools. That's okay because it's public facing, it's unclassified. As I was mentioning, people who uses our food bank, they have to fill out, their information, send sometimes, income and other personal and confidential information. We're
Mhm.
not going to be using and cloud-based AI to use their data right away, right? Like, if we haven't automated the food bank processes yet, but whenever we talk about automating that part, we always talk about building and custom in-house so that we can contain the data within our organization. And then we also let the users know that this is how we are this is how we are storing their data. I mean, they have already consent to sharing their data, but this is how we are storing their data.
Right.
Same thing goes for financials as well. um, and right now there's tools that you can buy that allows you to learn about where your data is residing. Like, we use Microsoft tools a lot, and Microsoft actually have this feature where you can turn on to see where your data is residing, if it's going to the US or if it's within Canada. And there's a feature where you can actually say that don't save my data, or just store my data within this environment. So there's all these features and tools right now that's incoming. But obviously, as leaders of the organization, this is like a constant battle in ensuring that we are on top of things, and we are ensuring that the folks within the organization are also aware and mindful as well.
Right. No, and in terms of geographical locations, you don't always think of the cloud. It's just out there, but it's physically residing somewhere. So that I mean, just in terms of legislation, in terms of what you're allowed to do, it's important to be very aware of where your data is being stored.
And also understanding what data you should and shouldn't put into AI, and how, like, what consequences that may or may not have, right?
Yeah, fair enough. I wanted to just throw it out one more time, as we're just about at the end of our time. So I wanted to see if anybody else had any comments or questions they'd like to throw in. If not, it's fine, no pressure. But I wanted to give you the opportunity. No hands going up right now. Minaz, maybe we'll wrap it there. I think that's a great place to shut it down for the day. But I want to say thank you. It's been really insightful conversation. I'm a big fan, so I just appreciate you taking the time. But I'm really grateful for all the insights you've shared today.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Feel free to connect anytime over LinkedIn.
And I'm sure they will. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Hopefully we'll see you next time.